Welcome to this webinar, which will talk through some results of some research conducted in collaboration between Edith Cowan University's School of Medical and Health Sciences and the University of Tasmania's Centre for Rural Health. The topic of this webinar is how consumers define, identify, and source regionally grown fruits and vegetables, and uncovering the barriers and enablers of doing so. We do have an Australian food paradox in some locations of Australia. We might have some really prolific, agriculturally productive regions. However, access to locally grown fruits and vegetables can be a challenge in some of those areas, and that has significant health and socio-economic implications. So it's really important to understand the factors involved with that and then identifying solutions to overcome those issues. As mentioned, this was a collaborative project between ECU and UTAS. The research was conducted in southern Western Australia, and that incorporated the southwest and Great Southern regions and Tasmania. The aim of this project was to determine how regionally grown fruits and vegetables are defined and identified by consumers and where they're sourcing them. So different kinds of outlets or alternative food networks, for example, and then measuring the access and consumption of those fruits and vegetables across the two regions and identifying where there were similarities and differences. We conducted a literature review regarding regionally grown fresh fruits and vegetables to identify in previous research how they identified or defined local food, the different methods used to determine access and consumption patterns, and also the challenges and opportunities or barriers and enablers associated with accessing and consuming those types of foods. We did find that local food was poorly defined across different papers. The majority of papers explored attitudes towards local food, so there was reasonably good consumer evidence, but they weren't really as focused in terms of, well, what is locally grown food, and of course we didn't have the information in our context, so in southwest WA and also Tasmania. So we really did need to conduct further research to understand these factors in these locations. So this literature review informed the survey design that was used. The methods included online and face-to-face strategies. So it was a convenient sample. We did recruit people or consumers from agricultural fairs, through community resource centres, neighbourhood houses, through social and traditional media. And the people that were aged 18 years and over were eligible for inclusion in the study if they lived in southern Western Australia and also Tasmania. With regards to the actual survey that people filled in, there were predefined options that participants selected in terms of how they identified the regionally grown fruits and vegetables based on the range of definitions that we were able to find in the literature, and how they were identified, how they were best defined, where and how often they sourced the regionally grown fruits and vegetables, the main reason why they shop there, the socio-demographic information such as household income, education level, and so on, consumption information, so how often and how much they consumed, and also barriers and enablers of accessing these fruits and vegetables. So the kinds of things that stopped them or made it hard for them to do so, and then those other factors that made it easier or were motivators for them. With regards to the demographics, we had 120 people from Tasmania and 123 people from southwestern Australia complete their survey. As you can see, if you look closely at the demographics, we do have a higher proportion of people in the older age group, so over 61 years of age. The majority, or 3/4, were female. We did also have people that had higher education, so a tertiary qualification. And in terms of the income bracket, roughly almost half were in the higher income bracket. So we do need to be careful when we interpret these findings that the people that participated were typically older, female, higher education, and had a higher income. So, how did they define them? So, people said that regionally grown fruits and vegetables were available at their farmers market, produced within their respective region, available at their local supermarket, produced within a 50-kilometre radius, and available at farm gates. And you can see with southern Western Australia or southwestern Australia, the majority of people were saying that it was at their, or more frequently saying that fruits and vegetables were available at their farmers market. That was particularly so for Tasmania, as you can see in the blue there. And also with Western Australia, people were saying that they were produced within their own region. So there was reasonable awareness that locally grown food is at farmers markets and produced within their specific region, less so available at farm gates, for example. So, why did they choose them? How important did they think they were? Well, regardless of their demographics, even though we said earlier that they were higher income, more likely to be female, and so on, between the regions, almost everyone believed that they were important. And of course, you could perhaps say that maybe the people who participated in this survey were more favourable to locally grown food or more interested in the topic, such as the nature of this kind of research. Some example quotes were that people said that they trust how the local food is grown more than food grown elsewhere, and they wanted to keep local money circulating around the community, which is good for the local economy. These are some motivators or enablers of regionally grown fruits and vegetables, and you can see more or less people most often thought that they were fresh and they wanted to support their local community and the local farmers. So really altruistic reasons for purchasing these kinds of foods. So really wanted to keep that money circulating in their local economy and particularly help their food producers. Some barriers were that there was perceived limited seasonal availability of these foods, which is quite common in this day and age where people want all types of fruits and vegetables all year round. Certainly some people do. Then they also thought that the locally grown fruit and vegetables was too expensive, and also that their food budget didn't allow them to purchase those foods, and they don't know where to purchase those foods from. So a couple of different reasons there in terms of financial, seasonal availability, and then lack of knowledge. So how did they mostly identify the regionally grown produce? Well, about 60% of the sample said that they identified them through labelling. So this was a really important way for people to know where their food was grown and how it was available to them in their outlets. With regards to how much they were consuming in terms of fruits and vegetable consumption, so we know that about 1/3 of the sample, 1/3 of people who responded consumed the 2 recommended serves of fruit per day, and of course there were others consuming more as well. And then with regards to the 5 serves of vegetables recommended, about 1 in 5 were consuming that amount of vegetables. The 2 asterisks are there to show the significant differences between southwestern Australia and Tasmanian people. So why are these findings important and what are the next steps? Well, the people in this study placed high value on locally grown food, and with regards to recommendations or what we could interpret from these findings, it is important that food labelling is clear in terms of the provenance of the produce, so where it's coming from, where it's grown, and also to help with the situation where some people were saying that their food budget didn't allow them to buy these foods, or it was a barrier, or they perceived them as expensive. This could be an opportunity for the ugly fruit and veg or second grade fruit and veg movement really to provide more opportunities for people to access these kinds of foods, because of course it is important financially for the region and also for a resilient and sustainable food system. We could increase buy local campaigns, so trying to increase the awareness amongst consumers about where they can purchase locally grown food, what is available in season, and so on. And then to help financially support the community, things like agri-tourism or eco-tourism could be enhanced to try to have the locally grown fruit and vegetables as an attraction for tourists in the region to support. We also know that healthy food access is really vital for all community members. And with that in mind, featuring healthy food access or trying to prioritize strategies to do that for all residents is really important in local government public health plans or health and wellbeing plans. And importantly, we could promote the benefits of purchasing and consuming regionally grown fruits and vegetables for the local community. So, because of those altruistic reasons why people wanted to support or buy regionally grown fruits and vegetables, we could then therefore promote the benefits for the community a bit more. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief webinar on locally grown fruits and vegetables. It does contribute to food security in the sense that we're trying to ensure that more locally grown produce is available for all community members, not just people who live in a certain area or have a higher income. It's really important that we do offer fresh, nutritious food for everyone in all